Hello and welcome back to ChäoS Head Noah. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we continued on with the ending B, which is called The Crying Sky. We had a lot of whose eyes are those, and a lot of freaky moments for Takumi as he deludes himself into thinking that everything is, against him. But the notable delusion that happened was, well, we were in ISA's hospital bed, and she was like, Takumi, I want you to kill Misumi. And Misumi was like, dude, no. And we're like, dude, no. And Misumi's like, dude, yes. And Misumi ends up killing ISA, and then turns to Takumi and was like, you've seen too much, you fool. And then we realized that was all a delusion. So that's A-okay. That didn't actually happen. But he made a real weird face. And afterwards, we went to, we fast forward. And the other notable thing was the confrontation at the subway with Senna, Kozupi, Hatano, and Suwa, where Suwa actually made mind-controlled Senna into thinking that he or her father was Genichi Narose, and then she accidentally killed her own father, and she was very, very out of it, like going crazy. And Suwa ended up mind-crushing Takumi, and after bringing Takumi to Genichi Narose, Takumi has a delusion of him essentially leading a happy life after resolving everything here, including just going to school with Senna, all the girls crushing on him, and living life, very happily until he realized, nope, that was a delusion. They kind of took my code sample, and the world's kind of done. And then we kind of loop back to the beginning of the game where, we saw the ruined Shibuya, but this time we're in Rimi's point of view instead of Takumi's, and that's how we got ending B. Crying Sky, bad end. But now I'm going to do another ending. This one also requires some making of choices. It's going to be a character ending this time, I believe. But yeah, let's head into it. There are many endings, so I do want to try to blitz through the parts that we've already seen. So, school swimsuit and glasses. Yes! A real swimsuit has a girl's name written on the chest. Sure, yeah. There's no such thing as a white school swimsuit. School swimsuits have to be dark blue. Yes! Alright, let's skip ahead. Lol, come on, man. You like glasses, girls? Swimsuit plus glasses, that's a thing. Normally, you take your glasses off if you're going swimming, right? And yet the girl doesn't. That's what gets the delusions going. Okay, come on. Let me skip this. I could not care less about swimsuits and glasses, or if they're navy blue, or if they're yellow. I mean, they're white. I try to be cool silent type. Okay, this is the same. Let me skip. Let me skip. Please, game. I don't want to talk to Grim anymore. He's creepy. I was trying to be friendly here. This is supposed to be the no lurker channel anyway. Okay, so yeah, they keep stopping in moments like this. It's a nice thing about the internet. So I know for sure I've read those parts before. But I'll see you when we can make a choice. Bye! Okay, time for the first delusion. This is when Misumi and I think Takumi were talking about something, I forgot. About being a hikikomori. And here we're supposed to have a positive delusion. I hate to disappoint Misumi when he was excited. Actually, no, we've already read all this stuff before, I'll just skip it. Why the hell would I want to go see blood? It'd be way too scary. This wasn't a haunted house or a horror movie. People were really dead, and the killer was still on the loose. I didn't want to go anywhere that could be even slightly dangerous. Actually, what was the new gen killer's motive anyway? Was it just some crazy person with a few screws loose, doing it for fun? That was probably the safest assumption. Not that I cared anyway. It had nothing to do with me. By the way, I happen to be a bit of a mass murderer myself. And what's more, no matter how many I killed, everyone still called me a hero. Of course, this was an ESL, lol. Just comparing me and the killer made it clear how much better 2D is than reality. QED. I desperately tried to refuse Misumi's offer while imagining myself delivering a flurry of violent jabs. The murderer? Oh yeah, I'll kick their butt the second I see them. In my delusion, at least, I can kill anybody and save anybody. But anybody who actually went and did that stuff in real world was just an idiot. They weren't thinking about what would happen next. The new gen killer, for example, was surely going to be caught before too long, and then they'd spend the next few decades in prison before finally being given the death penalty. I knew exactly what I wanted to say to them. You should have just done it in your delusions. Easy. I went to buy dinner. I took the route that I always used to go to the local convenience store from the base. It took about 3 minutes to get there. I knew the route well, with its filthy dark street. But today, it felt strange, like I wandered into another world. Everything looked like the same as always, but it felt like I was coming here for the first time. It was the opposite of déjà vu. Jamais vu, they called it. I'd read about it on the internet once, and there was this odd smell, like rotting garbage. I could feel the humidity clinging to my skin. If I hadn't known better, I would have assumed that it just rained. The air felt sticky. So we can't skip this. This is part of the new stuff, I guess, for making our choices. And then, the sound. I could hear a faint sound, like something dragging. I stopped to listen. The sound was coming from the back of a small alley on my left, at least as near as I could tell. There were no streetlights, and all the houses around me had their lights turned off. So no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't see what was going on in there. It was hard to believe that you could find this kind of deep darkness in modern Japan, especially in Shibuya, which ranked alongside Shinjuku for being a city that never sleeps. It felt like a little like a haunted house. Nah, there was one thing that made it very different from a haunted house. This darkness wasn't artificial. I didn't want to go. Going in was a mistake. I tried to tell myself not to go in. Yeah, but we go in anyways. But for some reason my leg took a step forward, as if that sound I kept hearing was drawing me in. I felt terrified. I knew I shouldn't go any further. My heart was pounding. The sweat was pouring down my face. Someone's pretty static whispered in my ear. Suddenly, someone grabbed my upper arm. It was so sudden that I panicked. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. The most I could do was squeeze the air out of the back of my throat. I wanted to run away in fear, but my body wasn't listening to me at all. My legs froze and refused to move so much as a millimeter. Ah, so in this case, Rimi actually prevents him from seeing the murder. Oh, that would change his perspective on things. There was a hand grabbing my arm. I could see it. Ooh, that is not what I imagined. That was also the same ghost hand that he imagined Senna grabbing him with. It was a deep green, thin like a mummy's, with blood veins protruding all around it. It didn't even look alive. I could have easily fallen to the ground and pissed myself right on the spot, but the voice felt strangely pleasant. The fear within me that had threatened to explode a moment ago began to subside. A low, tense voice. I slowly turned around. The first thing I saw was a crest of Suimei Academy. It was on the crest of a Suimei uniform. The person was wearing a skirt, so probably this was a girl. But I didn't have the courage to look at her face. She was closer than I thought, and it was all I could do to look away. Something was wrong. I looked back at the hand holding my arm. Normal hand. It had the thin, dainty fingers of a girl. It didn't look like anything like the grotesque green thing I'd seen a moment ago. Who was this girl? What did her face look like? What does her face look like as she looks at me? What was she doing here? I couldn't tell why, but I felt like I knew this girl. As I looked at my arm, and the pale white hand holding it, my mind began to create a delusion. The girl tied her hair with ribbons. I think that's a yes. Wore glasses. Nope. Rimi doesn't wear glasses. Wore over-the-knee socks. I want to say yes. Let's see what the guide says. Yes, it is yes. Wore a long skirt. I don't think she did. No. Was posing like a soldier at attention. Oh, yeah, she did do the bishit thing. But yeah, those are all the right ones. 1,000 doubts raced through my mind, but in the end, I couldn't speak a word. I just let my head hang there. The dragging sound stopped. And instead, I could smell. I could smell blood on her. Huh. This is good stuff. I was sitting in front of my computer monitor. I gulped down some soda in an effort to contain my excitement, and then I did a big stretch in my reclining chair. That was a good delusion, if I said so myself. It even had a mysterious teenage girl. Maybe I could give her a name and make her a repeating character in my delusions. This is a little game I played a lot. I could cast her alongside another character, maybe Seraton. You seem like a different type than Seraton, though. Either way, the great thing about delusions was that you could mix up 2D and 3D, and in my delusions, I was God. Anything I wanted to happen, happened. I was so used to being in my base that I actually whispered aloud. I forgot that this was a net cafe. I quickly put my hand over my mouth. I looked around. It didn't feel like anybody had heard me. At least. Okay, so he deluded himself into thinking that. 2 hours earlier. Oh, we're in Shogun's room. So we're gonna get some more Shogun stuff. The hospital room was bathed in orange light of the setting sun, and was as quiet as if time itself had stopped. There was only one person in the room, a boy sitting in the wheelchair. He may have been asleep because he wasn't moving at all. It was dinner time, and at most hospitals you would see nurses quickly rushing between rooms to deliver their meals, but there was no sound coming from the hallway either. The door opened, breaking the silence. Hi, Remy. Probably. Oh, we have casual clothes, Remy. A girl came into the room. The boy in the wheelchair looked up at her, but didn't say anything. For a moment, she stood by the entrance. She looked around the room with what seemed to be an expression of sadness on her face. The room was cramped and gloomy and smelled like disinfectant. This was where the two of them lived. Oh, she lived here. I didn't know that. It was a place cut off from the rest of the world, where no one else ever came to visit. No doctors, no nurses, no other family or the people they knew. The boy and the girl never spoke much. It was the boy who was hospitalized here. He'd been in a coma for an entire year and only woken up a month ago. The girl was simply living here. She trusted him, but theirs wasn't a physical relationship. There certainly was no romantic love between them. She simply wanted to repay her debt to him, nothing less, and nothing more. The boy seemed to be treating her with a deliberate coldness. He even told her not to come, but she still came. Part of it was that she simply had nowhere else to go. While he was in his coma, she took care of him all by herself. When it was time to sleep, she slept on the sofa in the room. That hadn't changed even now that he had woken up. She spoke in a gentle voice and showed him a plastic bag from the convenience store. Where do you get the money? I guess you can delusion real boot money, maybe? That's broken. Her voice seemed to shake the still air of the hospital room. It breathed life anew into a dead world, forcing movement to begin. At least, that's how it seemed to the girl. But she didn't share this thought with the boy. Instead, she set several small, cheap, individually wrapped pastries onto the currently unoccupied bed.
いつも思うんだけどさ、こんな食事で体は大丈夫？
もともと先は長くないから。買ってこさせて、ごめん。い
いの。私の分のついでだから、気にしないで。
She laughed a little too deliberately, then took her egg salad sandwich over to the windowsill. When she opened the window, a cool fall breeze blew into the hospital room. She let the pleasant feeling of the wind wash over her, and then sat down right on the window's edge. The hospital room was on a high floor. If she fell, she'd die instantly, but the girl showed no sign of fear, and she simply began to chow down on her egg salad sandwich. The boy in the wheelchair didn't say anything either, nor did he reach out for the pastries.
ねえ、もう一度聞くけど、本当に彼を覚醒させるつもり？
うん。昨日、チャットをしてみてはっきりした。のぞみはすでに彼に目をつけている。
That grim fellow.
2も完成間近だし。
They're awfully suspicious. They killed a whole bunch of people.
どうしても、やるの。
そうだよ。
でも、それじゃ、のぞみと変わらない。彼に恐怖を与えて、追い詰めて。
彼しかいないんだ。
彼が覚醒すれば、あなたは死ぬのに。
Oh, he's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna die soon anyway.
最初から覚悟の上だよ。彼に全ての責任を押し付けようとしている僕には、相応の罰だと思う。
The girl was still looking out the window at the setting sun. She didn't turn back to look at the boy. From the look on her face, one might think that she was about to cry.
彼を消すっていう選択肢はないかな。
そうなったら、僕はまた1年以上昏睡する覚悟で、新しい僕を生み出さないとね。その頃には、ノア2は完成して、世界には絶望が溢れているだろうけど。
Don't do it! Don't do it, Rimi! This is our last chance! The boy's voice was very gentle, but not without a note of bitterness. The girl heard it and sighed.
私は、あなたのやり方には反対だな。
ノア2を完成させるわけにはいかない。
そうだけど、彼の立場を考えたら、悲しすぎるよ。それに、あなたが自殺しようとしているのを、むざむざ指をくわえて見ているわけにもいかないし。
自殺じゃないよ。
私が、何とかする。
She spoke suddenly, her voice full of resolve. For the first time, the boy moved a little, as if surprised.
なんとかって
Somehow? How are you gonna do that? The girl finished her egg salad sandwich and jumped down from the window. She turned to face the boy. For some reason, she made a pose like she was saluting.
私が、望みから、彼を守る。
I guess you did try your best.
あなたは死なないから。
それじゃあ、彼が生まれた意味がなくなるし、何の解決にもならない。ノア2が。
ノア2も、私が何とかするって。
君には、無理だよ。
Really, you can't. You failed so many times.
もう、決めたの。私は、あなたを守るために、あなたと対立します。
Her smile was gentle but deeply fragile. When he saw it, the boy was at a loss for words.
あなたの予言によると、今日、新しい事件が起きるんだよね。
予言じゃない。事実だよ。彼らの妄想を見たからね。
だったら、彼をその事件に近づけさせないようにしなくちゃ。私、ちょっと行ってくるね。
Oh, that's why she was on the scene of the crime. And then that's why all their delusions got messed up. So Takumi knew that there was a crime being being committed because he saw like the stake and whatnot. She saw Rimi, and then the mixture of delusions made him see her as the killer. The girl started walking towards the door.
君が邪魔をしても、僕は予定通り彼を目覚めさせるよ。
As she opened the door, she came to a stop. The hallway was empty. Nobody was there. That meant no voices and no other sounds.
ねえ。私たちって何なんだろう。誰にも存在を知られずに、ここにもう1年以上いる。
Ghost!
ここにいると、自分っていう存在は幻なんじゃないかって思えてきちゃうの。
Like a ghost!
ジメジメ気分になるのは、やっぱり病院だからかな。
リミ。君は関わるべきじゃない。
His voice was plaintive as he begged her. The girl did not turn around.
パン、ちゃんと食べるんだよ。
This is going to be very bad for my health. You should have brought me something more healthy. As she left, that was all she said. I wonder what will change this time. So we didn't see the thing, the murder. I spoke too soon. We saw the murder anyway. She heard the sound too. At first, it was a whooshing sound, like something slicing through the air. She'd also seen the strange man who had the bag that made the sound. She chased him, but he gone away. Oh, right. I do remember commenting on this when I first saw the scene. I heard like a low hum. Didn't realize. Oh, I didn't connect the dot that was a backpack. But yeah, that's Sua. Huh. But yeah, the stuff. He ended up seeing it anyways. All that stuff about preventing him from seeing it was just a delusion. It was after that when she heard an echoing of the other sound, the loud metallic sound of stakes being pounded into the wall. She could hear the whooshing sound a little too. The two seemed to resonate, making her ears hurt.
手遅れだった。
She bit her lip a little, and then ran towards the source of the sound. What she saw there was... not as porcupine as I remembered. A corpse staked to the wall in the shape of a cross. She panicked and looked around. In all honesty, she didn't care whether the victim on the wall was alive or dead. Of course, if they could be saved, that would be for the best, but it wasn't her highest priority. Takumi Nishijo couldn't be allowed to get anywhere near here. She had to keep him from feeling afraid. Well, yeah, that failed, haha! Where was he? She looked back at the body. Oh, jeez. That wasn't what it looked like before. She couldn't believe her eyes. She only glanced away for a few seconds, but in that time, countless stakes had been embedded into the body. Only a moment ago, there had only been a few stakes. The body had been largely unharmed, with no signs of blood. But now, she was looking at something beyond belief. Shocked, she struggled to keep from throwing up. Her vision went blurry as she began to tremble.
妄想が現実を侵食してる。
She realized the other thing had changed too. Her uniform? Oh, I see. Her clothes were different. She was wearing what seemed like some sort of high school uniform. She didn't recognize it at all. Her whole body was covered in blood, and her hand she held a cross-shaped stakes.
嘘。これって妄想がシンクロを。
The delusions are synchronizing, and now you're gonna hear a ah! Someone else's delusions were affecting what she saw. The brutal murder in front of her, her clothes, the brilliant red blood. Were these real?
違う。
They weren't. The blood didn't smell like anything. The stake in her hand had no weight and didn't feel cold. She touched the blood on her forehead, just like she thought. There was no wetness, no slick sensation. Fearfully, she reached out towards one of the stakes pinning the body in front of her to the wall. She tried to grab it, but her hand merely passed through instead. It was all just a delusion, an incredibly powerful delusion. A delusion that could become real. It had already been created. All that was left was to reboot it, and it become reality. She felt worried. What should she do now? She'd never been inside the territory of such a strong negative delusion. The gigalomaniac responsible may have already killed Takumi Nishijo. The body in front of her could transform him at any moment. She let off a soft, panicked cry, and then...
あの時の将軍のリンク写真
She heard the voice of a frightened boy behind her. Okay, I'm glad we finally got this part, because, like, it was kind of touched upon, but it was never completely answered until just now. She looked at me with startled, wide eyes. Her expression then shifted to something that combined a smile with tears, and then...
よかった。
She whispered. Glad? Glad about what? Why'd anybody blah 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 blah? I forgot I read this already. Okay, so... yeah, that was a lot more context in regarding, you know, that what happened there. But now we're in the hospital, in a large general hospital in Yoyogi. It was time for the rounds in the wards, so most of the nurses were away. There was only a single young nurse at the nurse's station, Hazuki! She was staring at her laptop expressionlessly. She had her cell phone to her ear, even though she wasn't on break. Cell phones were forbidden in the hospital, but she made no effort to conceal herself. Her emotionless eyes were staring at the chat log in her laptop screen. Ah, okay, yep.
ええ、そう。現れたのよ。西條匠が。
間違いないっすか？
多分。
There was a man on the other end of the line. It was clear from the tone of their voice that they weren't talking about work.
名前はハンドルネームを使っているけれど、あの公式のことを知っていたもの。
He knew the formula!
ログをコピーして送るわ。
IR2! With a robotic movement, the nurse put her hand on the laptop's mouse and went to copy the log. Suddenly, she stopped and furrowed her brows.
どうしたんす？
She didn't answer though. Instead, she squinted as she looked more closely at the monitor. The LCD screen still displayed a chat log, but something was different than it had been just a few seconds ago. Oh, this is what Yua saw. We actually never got an answer to that, why she ended up seeing logs like this where it seemed like he was talking to himself, but Shogun counter-delusioned this to make it seem like split personality. There's no way it could change. This is a log, not a real chat. But a moment ago, there was nothing unusual about it at all, and now she could clearly sense that something was wrong.
ログの書き込み時間が変わってる。
どういうことだ?
The man must have sensed something because he lowered his voice.
ついさっきまでは不自然なところなんてなかったのに、これ一体どうなって？
落ち着け。相手は化け物級のギガロマニアックスだ。
細工されたのかしら。
He altered the time world thing.
自分の実在を知られたくないためだろ。
書き込み時間が変化したことで自作自演のように見えてくるわ。
そう見えるならそれが狙いってことだ。現実を妄想にした。気をつけろシノ。見られているぞ。奴に。
You're being watched. I'm seeing you right now. The nurse, Shino, felt a tickle at the nape of her neck. She covered her neck with her hands and glanced behind her, but there was no one else in the nurse's station.
信仰の救いあれ。
She offered up the prayer of her faith, as if to ward off her terror. Ooh, huh. Skip time. Hi, it's Nanami! And here we have another choice to make. Here we make no choice. Okay, the Yua delusion choice. This time we choose bad delusion, so let's see what happens when we do that. Maybe it was just a reflection from a passing car, but a flash of lights illuminated the lens of her glasses. I heard it. Her lips twisted as if she was mocking me. There was so much distance between us. There were so many people around us. But still, I could hear her tiny laugh. And as she laughed, she suddenly lifted up her skirt. Oh. I thought it was gonna be knives because in the other one, we imagined her as a yandere, but here, alright. Dozens of small shiny objects fell out from inside it. They looked like crosses. I remember the crucifixion I'd seen the other day. Evil you was back! The look on her face was sheer insanity. Her eyes were bloodshot, her cheeks frozen, and a smile was on her lips. Then, for some reason, she started walk across the street even though the light was still red. Like her eyes! I shriveled up in fear and tried to run, but my legs were rooted to the ground. I couldn't even speak. She was getting closer, crossing the street, the cross-shaped stakes in her hand. Stay away from me! I screamed in my mind and then... Well, you'll, I guess, enjoy your life in another world. Get isekai'd. She was hit by a truck that was driving down the road and thrown down the street. The people around me started to scream. There were too many people between us for me to see what had happened to her. But I was sure that she was dead. She was dead for sure. She was lying on the ground, broken, bones shattered, and covered in blood. I'm saved, I told myself, even though I knew it was a terrible thing to think. But actually, none of that happened. She's still across the street. I came back to my senses. My body was soaked with an awful sweat. People around me weren't even screaming anymore. They were simply waiting for the light to change. There was no sign of any truck. The girl on the other side of the street was still there, staring. Was what I'd just seen just a delusion? Boop, 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 boop. The light changed. The crowd began to move. I couldn't move. Girl A didn't move. She didn't smile or flip her up her skirt. She just stared at me. It was as if time had stopped for the two of us, and no one else. Why wasn't she moving? Why was she just standing there, menacingly? It didn't make sense. It was weird. I shouldn't get involved. Okay, now Yua's in our room for this next illusion. We do nothing, so we continue on. Okay, we're approaching the last illusion of chapter 1, which would be the bag, where we also not do nothing this time. We have a bad delusion, so you were gonna kill us all. Wait a second. Oh, what's gonna happen? Oh, room 36. The room next to room 37, the one I'd always use at cafe. The first day I met her, there had been someone in there looking at the new gen aggregator site. I seen her at the cafe, then panicked and rushed out. Did that mean that person in the next room over was... Okay, so in this delusion, or in this ending, Yua's gonna seem like even more of a psycho murderer person. I looked down at her as she looked up at me. Her gaze from behind her glasses collided with mine. It was the first time our eyes had met since we had known each other. She was still smiling, but it quickly turned into a look of uncertainty. What kind of look was on my face? I couldn't tell. I looked back at her bag, and then the straps. I thought I heard her gasp.
西条くん
There was a gust of wind, yellow leaves blew off the trees and danced in the air. 100 thoughts were racing in my mind. Garo Froggy was popular, even if I couldn't understand why. There could be any number of people with 3 Garo Froggy straps on their bag. But... Room 36. You might have been sitting next to me then, but she never said a word about it. And then there were the new gen killings. I'd totally forgotten about them, but I'd been a witness to one of the crimes. That terrible scene came flooding back to me and... Ah, monster girl! I'd seen the killer's face.
これですかゲロカエルンって言うんです。何人かの友達にもらっちゃって、気がついたら3つになってまして。
She gave me a slightly forced smile and then she reached out towards her bag and tried to take the straps off of it.
最近、女子高生に大人気なんですよ。私は、あんまり可愛いとは思わないんですけど。
Her hands were shaking a little. Maybe she was nervous because she couldn't get them off.
変だな。どうして外れないんでしょう。ちょっと待ってくださいね。西条くんにも見せてあげ。
Drops all your documents. Oh. She finally yanked one off by force, knocking the bag off the bench. It hadn't been zipped up, so her notebook and textbooks went spilling everywhere. Okay, so that's the same. See you in Chapter 2. Okay, Chapter 2, First Illusion. Back with Dr. Takashina. Here we have a bad one. Let's see how this turns out. Whoa! It wasn't all long before I was called into the exam room. I thought I'd be asked to wait longer, but that wasn't the case at all. What about all the people in the lobby? Maybe they were all fakes put there by the hospital to make it look busy. It was a different exam room than the one I'd been seen 4 years ago, but I recognized how he welcomed me when I came in.
Yeah, Nishijo-kun.
Dr. Takashina was looking at me with a cheerful smile. Nothing had changed since I'd last come here 4 years ago. Feeling relieved, I just let loose with everything else feeling.
先生、助けて。
どうしたんだい？
変な女が僕にストーカー行為を。このままじゃ学校にも行けないし、家にも一度来られて場所知られてるから安心できないし。
So, this is a hospital. You're supposed to call the forces, like the police force. We can't really do anything about that.
落ち着いて。
落ち着いてなんていられないよ。あの女異常だ。僕は正常なんだ。それに岩だけじゃない。悪魔女だって。
Totally sane. Totally normal.
そうだ。悪魔女が真犯人なんだ。
真犯人？
ニュージェネの犯人だよ。間違いないんだ。僕は事件現場でしたよ。貼り付けにしてる最中のあの女を見たんだ。
Are you sure about that? Let me ask my assistant. Hey Hazuki, what do you think about the new gen killings?
大丈夫。
Don't kill me later.
何も心配いらないから。とにかく落ち着こう。いいね。
I fell silent. I didn't understand what was fine. But if a professional, a doctor, especially Dr. Takashina, said so, I must be fine. That's what I told myself. I was getting so excited that I was having trouble breathing. I took a moment to catch my breath. He was staring at me with a grave look on his face. He seemed really serious.
本当に大丈夫
Nope, and you've never been okay.
もちろんだよ。
あんな危ない女が僕を、狙ってるのになんでそう言い切れるの
理由を知りたいかい？
I nodded, and he sighed a little. He was fiddling a little with the pen in his hand as he spoke.
なぜなら、君の言っている女の人は、この世には存在しないからだよ。
Oh, she doesn't exist. It's all in your head.
君は自分の妄想に怯えているだけなんだ。
His voice was eerily kind. My body was shaking. It wouldn't stop. Why? Why was he being so kind?
西条くん、君はその女の人には会っていない。わかるね？
わからないよ。
じゃあ、もっと具体的に言おうか。君はその女の人には会えるはずがないんだ。もう7年間も君はこの病院から
You have not left this hospital.
一歩も外に出ていないんだからね。
What did he mean? Huh? What was he saying?
君はこの病院の精神科に7年間入院している。そのことはわかるだろう？
I mean, we do have the same name, but like, you don't look the same. Then again, you haven't seen him in like a year and a half. I don't understand. I can't understand. What was he? Why was he telling me this crazy stuff with a smile on his face? I looked down at the clothes I was wearing. When I come here, I was wearing a Sarah Tan t-shirt and a long-sleeve denim shirt over it. I was wearing my only pair of jeans too. So why was I now wearing a hospital gown? It was a pale green one-piece gown, a simple one that tied in the front with a string. I wasn't wearing any pants beneath it. When had I changed clothes?
ここは閉鎖
When
病
had I
棟
changed
だから
clothes?
お見舞いの人も来ない。入院患者さんの男女で別フロアに分けられていて、行き来はできない。精神科の看護師は全員男だし、君の病室は完全に個室。窓もない。つまり、君は7年間女性と接触したことがないんだ。
I haven't felt the touch of a girl in the past 7 years.
思い出したかな？
No, it wasn't true. I wasn't locked in some hospital room. I lived alone in Shibuya. I was a top-ranked player in ESO. I even went to school 2 or 3 times a week. I talked to the nurse at the front desk just minutes ago. A minute ago. Is this your first time here? Yes. Then fill out this form.
嘘に決まってる。
本当にそう思うのかい？
He wrote something on my chart as he whispered. I couldn't read what he was writing. It wasn't Japanese. English? No, German?
だとしたら、君の精神はまだ異常だっていうことだよ。もうしばらくは入院が必要だね。
We're extending your stay. He glanced at me. His eyes were filled with pity. He never looked at me like that before. I fell to my knees, helpless. The tears came quickly. Oh, now I see. That's right. All of my memories were just one delusion of mine. I was the abnormal one. I was the crazy one. What an awful ending. But, well, it didn't matter now. Even if the memories were just a delusion, they weren't particularly good ones anyway, and I could just create new ones, right? Maybe I could have a world where nothing scary happened. I could be social and outgoing and get good grades. Girls would love me. All my friends would be girls who looked good enough to be models, and they would all be in love with me. And then I could suggest that we live under the same roof. That would be the beginning of fun, bittersweet, and slightly crazy days for me. That laugh does you no favors in helping you prove your sanity. I forced myself to laugh. It didn't really work. My expression froze up. I wanted to die. Bzoom. Suddenly, I realized that I was still sitting on the sofa in the lobby. My body was soaked with a terrible sweat. A cold chill ran down my spine. I started to look around the room, unsure of what had just happened. There was an old, hunched-up woman sitting next to me. Her eyes was buried deep, so deep in her wrinkles that I couldn't tell if she was awake or not. I looked up at the clock above the reception counter and saw that I'd been here in the lobby for over an hour. Was that just a dream? I had fallen asleep while I was waiting since I hadn't slept at all last night. I sighed deeply. What an awful dream. It was a dream, right? Or so you think. I tried to remember about my life until yesterday. It was okay. My memories were all connected. I'd encountered the demon girl at the crime scene, and then Yua had lied to me and threatened me, and then I'd come to this hospital to prove that I was sane. Yeah, it was all fine. I would have preferred it if it was a delusion, of course. Maybe I would have been happier if I could have made a new world and had a lot of fun with it. I was just that sick of this world. In the end, I waited another 2 hours before they finally called my name. Alright, I think the rest should be similar. Oh, never mind. I went to the exam room. It was the same I'd seen in my dream. I thought for a minute I was back in the dream again. Dr. Takashina looked just like he had in my dream too. Maybe he just hadn't changed much over the past 4 years.
今日はどうしました?
He didn't start by telling me that my memories were delusions, but...
西条です。
ん? ああ、これはご丁寧に。高階です。はじめまして。
Okay. Goodbye, Takashina. I think this is the last time we see you, and the only time. Hi, and hi, Seraton.
外出嫌いなのに病院来るなんてすごい。
Yeah, we're great. We're gonna have a good time with this one. No, she opened the door and was met with a smiling doctor.
今日はどうしました?
She ignored the question and looked around the room. The exam room wasn't very big. Wait, who is she? Is she supposed to be Sarah? Okay. There's a blank medical chart on the desk next to another one covered in writing. The writing was in a language that wasn't Japanese. They called her a demon. Everyone did, even her parents. Whether she had been a demon from the start or became one because everyone called her that anyway, it didn't matter anymore. In the past month, she'd killed 8 people. Oh, we're in the POV of Hazuki now. The public called her mad, but from her perspective, that number wasn't anything special at all. She was a demon after all.
何か気になりますか? もし気になるものがあるなら言ってください。どかしますから。
He was a good doctor. He cared about making his patients comfortable. She smiled, opened her big bag, and slowly took out a 24cm knife with a willow leaf blade.
それとも、もっと広い部屋にか...
Uh-oh. The doctor's expression froze at the sight of the knife. She smiled gently at the sight of his fear. That this doctor would be the 9th. This wasn't part of her original plan, but there was no harm in adding one more. She put her bag on the ground and silently walked over to the doctor with long strides before leaping and stabbing with the knife. The knife slid right past his ribs and to the heart. That one strike would be enough to kill. The body slumped forward towards her and then fell to the ground. Now it was an unmoving thing. She withdrew her knife and knocked the thing away with her elbow. Wait, I thought he was still alive while they essentially lobotomized him. Just as the corpse fell forward, its white jacket stained with crimson, she heard the scream of a nurse who had come to investigate the Wait, oh no, this is Takumi's delusion. But like, it's exactly what's it's almost exactly what happened to Hazuki, so like, She slashed at the nurse with a knife, stepping in on the doctor's body to get closer. Splurt. A spray of flesh blood. It wasn't a fatal wound, but a jagged slash that had been carved into the kind-looking nurse's face. The nurse screamed and fell to the ground, hands over the wound, blood pouring through her fingers. She ignored them and walked towards the exam room. The 10th victim wouldn't be that nurse. It would have to be something special. 10 was a big number. 2 whole digits. It had to be her original target. He's deluding himself into thinking it was either like Rimi or Yua, who's now entering the room on a murder spree. The other patients and nurses were already running and screaming. The whole place was in an uproar. I want to say that it's probably going to be Rimi. But none of the voices reached her ears. She looked around, certain that he was somewhere nearby. Her eyes fell on the curtain. The curtain surrounded a tiny space, the size of a small walk-in closet. There was probably a bed inside. There you are! She shook with joy, warmth spread just below her abdomen at the thought of finally being able to kill him. Yeah, she slowly approached the curtain, but instead of opening it, she slashed through it with her knife. You can kind of see Takumi, at least I can see his part of his hair and his face, I think. When she peered through the hole she made, she saw a bed, just as she thought. He was lying on it. Found you! When she saw him, she couldn't control herself anymore. She flung open the curtains and stood by the bed. He was asleep, a pained expression on his face. Gently, she wrapped her fingers in his hair, softly stroking his head. He didn't wake up. She held the knife, blade downward. She raised her hand high. She aimed for his heart. A single strike, just like the doctor. That would be enough to kill him. With a look of ecstasy on her face, she brought down the weapon. You have a good dream, Takumi? Was that nice? I leapt up, only to find myself still on the bed. My heart was pounding fast. I looked at my chest. There was no stab wound there, no blood either. I was unharmed. I looked around. The curtain was closed. It hadn't been slashed with any knife. I slowly put a hand up to the curtain. For the moment, I had a delusion that if I opened it, I'd see Hazuki and the doctor lying on the ground covered in blood.
夢だよな。
But I didn't have the courage to open the curtain. What if I did and I saw an ocean of blood? What if the demon girl was there, waiting with a knife? I was too scared to move. And then, Hazuki was like, hey, I need you to fill out this survey. The curtain was flung open right in front of me and I screamed and fell off the bed.
大丈夫ですか?
It's Hazuki! I looked up. Hazuki was looking down at me with wide open eyes. There was no blood on her white outfit and no gaping wound on her face.
ごめんなさい。驚かせてしまって。起きているとは思わなかったので。
いえ。
I looked so pathetic. I slowly staggered to my feet, eyes pointed firmly at the ground. My heart was still pounding hard. I was so glad that it was just a dream, though. It was just something out of a horror movie.
本当に大丈夫?
She looked at me, worried. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't look up. The most I could do was nod a few times.
少しうなされていたみたいでしたけど。
怖い夢を見て。
そう。
What time is it? How long was I asleep? I asked Hazuki. Surprisingly, I've been out for 3 whole hours. Must have been more tired than I thought.
でも、無遊病の症状は結局出ませんでしたよ。
You didn't walk or talk at all. Okay, maybe some talking, but it definitely wasn't about cute girls or anything. Her tone was reassuring.
まあ、今日はたまたま症状が出なかっただけかもしれないから、無遊病でないっていう断定はできないですけど。
No, I'm not a sleepwalker. I needed to ask the question what I came here for. But I didn't see the doctor. Is that skippable? Yep, it's skippable. Okay, so here it says choose none, so I'm just gonna... Okay. We are currently at Ayase's concert again, and here we are supposed to do a nun, so she's not gonna take off her clothes this time. Here, when we're talking about Tonight Heart, we're also supposed to do none, so let's proceed. We are now in chapter 3. Oh, a new little thing here. I remembered Yua's words and looked over fearfully at room 36. I checked to make sure it was empty when I arrived, and since I hadn't heard any sounds coming from within it, it probably still was, but still scared me. And that was probably it, because now he would look out. Never mind. I stood up and looked over the partition and confirmed that it was empty. Relieved, I sat back into my reclining seat. Alright. Okay, we've met Senna for the first time, and we have a positive delusion. Girl B was looking down at me coldly. She was really close. Her bare legs was right in front of me, and if I moved my head a bit, I could probably see what was under her skirt.
やはり見えるのか。
すいません。見てないです。
I forgot, was this the one with the ghost? No, it was not. It was not the ghost one. I quickly looked down. She was asking if I'd seen her panties, and if I said yes, she was going to start something. But I didn't see them, I swear. I could probably see them with a little work, but I hadn't seen them yet. Also, I'm not interested in 3D girls' panties. I only like the panties on the figures of 2D girls. What kind of delusion will we get with Girl Senna?
さっきからチラチラ見てただろ。
本当に見てない。
For some reason, Girl B began to take off her shoes and socks. I almost caught a glimpse up her skirt as she lifted her leg, but quickly looked away. I tried to find an opening to escape, but even as she stripped off her socks, she was still staring at me. Now barefoot, she stood right in front of my face, her lips curling with a cruel smile. Yes, you get the fan service now. The Senna fan service. Look at that smug face.
白状させてやる。
I'll make you confess. Look at this. Her warm bare foot suddenly pressed against my crotch. I was stunned by this sudden humiliating goof.
ほら、どうだ。グー。
やめ。
Well, I will say, there are a lot of feet people in this world. I am not one of them. This does nothing to me. The people around me were ignoring us. You'd think at least one person would have stopped to help. The world was such a cold place.
だんだん大きくなってきたさ。
Oh my god. I guess Takumi is one of them. How could she be doing this to me in the middle of the center street? It was humiliating, but it felt so good. Oh my god. What the fuck was that?
答えろ。見えるんだな。ディソードが。
Oh, the D sword. I thought you were talking about my D. Sword? I came back to my senses and looked up at Girl B's face. She was still wearing her shoes and socks. She wasn't rubbing her foot on my crotch. Ah, just a delusion. It looked like she wasn't going to be starting something over whether I'd seen her panties or not, either. But a D sword? What was that? Never heard of that word before. It was clear that she was referring to the strange sword-like object in her hand. Why did she want to know if I could see it? Alright, that was, weird. Alright, we meet Ayase and Misumi's here, and we do nothing. So we go on to the next delusion. We've met with the detectives. I think this is where we meet Rimi for the first time too, but we also don't do anything. Oh, Rimi Sakahata was walking down the hall of Sumehai's second-year classrooms. We were shortly after when Takumi bought the fake D-sword. Oh man. With a blank look on her face, she wasn't used to this uniform yet. She'd never been here before. The other students were ignoring her. She was actually really nervous, but she was trying her hardest to not show it. She headed for one of the classrooms, steps unsteady, but eyes locked dead ahead. She stopped right in front of class 2C.
ここか。
She already knew. This was Takumi Nishijo's class. She put her hand on the closed door. Only then did she realize that her fingers were shaking. I wish I could have just been a student here. The wish passed through her brain, but she didn't let it develop into a delusion. With a small sigh, she flung open the door.
みんな、おはよう。
Bishi! Her blank expression was gone, as if it never existed. She was loud and cheerful enough to startle the rest of the class. She put her right hand up to her forehead in some kind of salute, and greeted the rest of the class. Class fell dead silent. School hadn't started yet, but half of the students were already in their seat. They all looked at her, suspicious and confused. It was only natural they would be. Nobody in this class, nobody, this entire school knew that Rimi even existed. That's why she needed to ensure that she had everybody's attention, so that she can do her delusion thing. Oh, so that's how she did this. She did that to grab everyone's attention, and then now that everyone's on her, she can make it so that everyone is deluded into believing the same thing. Her D-sword was in her hand, but nobody reacted. The blade with its strange metallic wings was still in the delusion stage, and nobody could see it. For now, that was enough. Her mind wove a delusion. Her feelings were unleashed in the eyes of everyone looking at her. They all blinked in unison, and the air in the room, which had frozen with Rimi's far too cheerful greeting, suddenly relaxed. Rimi smiled at the classroom once more.
おはよう。
おはよう、咲畑。
おーっす。
Creepy as hell! I see. And that's why, at this point, she made it so that Misumi thought that the trio of friends were friends for a long time.
リーミー、朝っぱらから声大きすぎ。
もっと静かに入ってこいよな。
But she can't use this power on Takumi, maybe. Actually, no, she should be able to. I wonder why it didn't work. Is it because he wasn't here? They all spoke to her as if they'd known her for a long time. A few seconds ago, the class hadn't known her at all. But that had just changed. Rimi's delusions was transmitted to their minds. They're creating a shared awareness. The entire class became aware of the fact that Rimi Sakihata was a classroom of theirs in Class 2C at Suimei Academy. 2 days ago, she tried on Takumi Nichijo, Taku, and it hadn't worked well. Oh, there we go. Was that when the murder happened? I think no, maybe that was when she visited his room. Forgot. She was worried that it might not work this time, but it looked like she was worried over nothing. Her classmates all smiled at her, and she breathed a sigh of relief. She dissolved her D-sword and headed for a desk in the back where nobody was sitting. This desk was also something she created from her delusions. You made a desk? Okay. I guess that checks out. Rimi set her bag down on it, but instead of sitting down, she walked towards one of the male students.
よ、リミ。
Hi, Daichin.
ミスミ大輔。ミスミ大輔。ミスミ大輔。
You didn't have to say it 3 times. Rimi said the name 3 times, as if feeling it out.
なんで3回言った？しかもフルネーム。
No reason.
そういう気分だったからだよ。大地。
Misumi was Taku's friend. He had a handsome face and a clean-cut appearance. Rimi had no idea how he'd become friends with Taku. It was possible that their relationship was fake, kept intact by one of Takumi's delusions. Or Taku's delusions. Or maybe Misumi had just taken a liking to him. It didn't matter which. What mattered was that he was Taku's friend, and that Rimi's own delusions had created new memories within him.
タクは？
まだ来てねえな。っていうか、今日はあいつ来る日か？
No idea.
多分ね。
さすが、タクの保護者だな。あいつのスケジュールをちゃんと把握してるなんてよ。
Tehehehe. Rimi couldn't help but chuckle. She felt guilty. She was changing people's memories with her delusions, and nobody but her knew that something had changed. Everyone was friendly and nice to her, but the relationships were all lies. She thought that she was used to loneliness, but being in that classroom made her feel more alone than she had ever been in her life. Oh, it's Kozupi. But no, it's no longer Kozupi. We're skipping you. We've already seen this. Last delusion for chapter 3 once again. We got the call, and we're doing a negative delusion. Ooh, what kind of negative delusion will this lead into? Did we already do this before? Yeah, we did. I think that's the one with Yua. Anyways, see ya in chapter 4. Okay, so I may have made a mistake, and I'm retreading old ground just to make sure I do it right. Oh, yeah, I think I messed some things up. So the first delusion in chapter 3, which is the chapter I'm currently on, I wasn't supposed to do the thing for Senna, where, you know, she did that thing. Huh, whoops, well, that wasn't on purpose. Anyways, we do none for that. For this interaction, we're supposed to do the good one instead of the other one. I think I accidentally skipped a step. So, this is when we talk with Fez with Misumi. So, yeah, weird Senna interaction was not supposed to happen.
私、 きな人がいるのよ。
マジ？何何？
Is it me?
俺のこと？
そこの人。
そこ？
Him? What was she talking about? She wasn't pointing anywhere in particular. She was just staring at me and nobody else. Was I the one that Fez liked?
この前、ライブに来てたわね。
She came up to me. Her gaze was still locked onto my face. The people around us started to murmur. Everybody was waiting to hear what Fez, the most popular female singer in Shibuya, was about to say.
いや、俺もライブに行って。
一目で、悟ったわ。
Fez was ignoring Misumi. She grabbed the necktie of my uniform and pulled me close. I was close enough that I could clearly see her breathing. You could be this close to someone if you had a very special relationship. Not friends, not even family would be good enough. Yes, this was a closeness for lovers.
君が、私の運命の人だって。
She gently stroked my cheek with her hand, the neutral expression still on her face. Something about it made me shudder. I was enchanted by Fez. I couldn't look away.
決めたわ。私、君の、お嫁さんになる。
That was real quick. The words she said didn't match her flat expression of ennui, but a gap moe this created was very cute. Everyone cheered, yeah, yeah! The people around us began to murmur in awe at Fez's de facto declaration of our betrothal. Misumi was so frustrated about losing to me that he dropped to his knees.
僕の意見は無視ですか？
Nope.
嫌なの。
嫌じゃないです。
Part of me felt like I should think about this more, but marrying a girl this pretty would make the rest of my life a happy one for sure. And thus, this sweet and romantic love story between me and Fez began. Zoop. Except, of course, that didn't happen. While I was enjoying my ridiculous delusion, Fez had whispered something and quickly disappeared.
自信なくすぜ。くそー。
Kaso! Misumi was in a gloomy mood after being completely ignored. If she was able to so easily ignore an approach from a hot guy like him, maybe Fez was a Yuri type. Well, I think we know what Yuri is. Anyways.
それはすごくいいスールです。
Her ideal partner would be a lolly type like, say, Nanmi. Yep, totally.
あんな不愛想な女、もう二度と相手にしてやるもんかよ。あー、うぜえ。
うぜえ。
何が剣を見つけろだ。わけわかんねえ。
剣。
What sword?
ああ、岸本がそう言ってただろ。剣を見つけろ。そうすれば救われるって。
Salvation?
なあ、ターク。ファンタズムの歌にそんな歌詞でもあるのか？
The sword. Does she mean that thing at the concert? The one that looked like a mic stand? Can't think of it. Just 2 days ago, somebody else had asked me about a sword. Alright. Well, yeah, I messed up the order again, but after police is still none. So I'm not really sure what happened here, but Takumi's like, why isn't anyone on my side? So, yeah. And I thought back to Fez, to Ayase Kishimoto, what she told me when I met her at the school. I've been too busy with my delusion to hear it, but Misumi had told me that she said this. Find the sword, and salvation awaits. Oh, it's just that little additional part, because we had to mention that we didn't know. Okay. Find the sword, and salvation awaits at this weird-ass shop that probably smells funky, too. Okay, so the Remy stuff still happens. Maybe I would have gotten this anyways, but... oh well, it's too late. Gozupi is a skip. Phone call is also a skip. Convenience store bento, here is the last choice. This is where I'm supposed to have a bad delusion. Ooh, how are you going to delude yourself to thinking something bad here? Nobody came out from the back. I started to have an awful premonition. This wasn't right. Had I wandered to some place I really shouldn't be? Is the world wavy? Yes, delusion. As I stood in front of the register, I took a quick look outside. I couldn't see a single person moving on the other side of the glass doors, but I could see a silhouette partially hidden by the shadow of the condo building across from me.
Huh?
Huh? The silhouette quickly hid, but still I could see it clearly. There was something long and black in its hand, like a tube. Was that a sniper rifle? It would either be a police force mobile unit or maybe the special assault team. I hadn't seen anybody because the police had sealed off the area, But why? I suddenly had a shocking realization. I quickly looked around the store before hiding myself behind a shelf. Could there be a hostage situation happening in the store? Maybe there was a criminal in the back room who had taken the cashier hostage. Maybe that criminal was the one responsible for the New Gen murders. Oh no! I crashed down. I said, oh no, before it showed up. I crashed down with my head in my hands. Why had I come to some place so dangerous? Oh, and what were the police doing? If they had this area sealed off, why didn't they stop me before I came in? Was there any way to get out? If I stayed here, they'd take me hostage too. Fortunately, I hadn't run into criminal yet, but if they were locking themselves up in the back room, now was my chance to run. I was so scared my knees were shaking, I could barely even stand up. Still, I somehow managed to stand up slowly and head towards the door when... It's you! It started with a really stereotypical message, the kind you didn't even see on the police procedurals anymore. A policeman was yelling into a microphone outside the store. I was so startled that I hid behind the shelf again. How dare you enter that store? You shall pay for your crimes! It was like something out of a cheesy old movie. Didn't they have any hostage negotiators or anything? 30 seconds until we fire at all you and the hostages. That was short. Just 30 seconds? Wait, force? Were they gonna put the hostage in danger? If somebody tried that in modern Japan, wouldn't the media crucify them? What were the cops thinking? I held my breath and stayed as still as I could. My heart was pounding real fast. It felt like it was about to burst. If the police did come in, this store would turn into a war zone. I'd be caught up in it. Maybe I'd get hit by a stray bullet and die. Please, no. The criminal seemed to be doing nothing at all. The inside of the store was dead quiet. I was starting to get mad. Why had the criminal done something so stupid? Come on, just surrender, surrender, do something, or something might happen to me too. I peeked out from the shelf and looked outside again. Shockingly, there was a full team of SAT snipers. I thought it was supposed to be SWAT, but I don't know. Snipers out there, plainly visible, pointing their rifles at me. I quickly pulled my head back. The police seemed intent on shooting the killer. Was that even legal in Japan? I couldn't believe it. No way. Come on, please stop. I looked around helplessly before I happened to look down at my hands. For some reason, my hand was holding a knife. It was stained red too. This was blood. I was confused. When did I get this knife? Where did it even come from? I heard a moan next to me. The cashier was lying there. It was a dull, unimpressive looking college kid. His hands were bound behind his back and his mouth was sealed with tape. He was staring at me. His eyes were flushed with terror. Why was he looking at me? Don't look at me like that. You're looking at me like I'm the criminal. Wait, the criminal? Am I the criminal? No, it's not me. I didn't do anything. We will shoot you dead. No. 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 I don't. Okay. Now that I've been able to make delusions and like see other things that Takumi's thinking, honestly, I think the point is to have him have these illusions in order to make give you insight on how he changes and how he reacts based on the delusions he sees. But like a lot of these delusions really don't really add much value. I think sometimes they're for fan service, other times they're just really like it's like a tangent, and telling whatever plot thing he decides to go on a tangent is actually being generous, because that I feel like had nothing to do with anything that will happen in the future. Like, come on. Several minutes had passed while I was lost in my delusion. There's no sign of any employee at all. I want to believe that the cashier was just asleep, so I waited another 5 minutes, but there was still no sign of the cashier or anybody else. There wasn't even a sound. Alright, see you in chapter 4. We are in chapter 4, chapter called D-Sword. Oh, this is the first time we see Rimi in the room, or at school again. My body froze. And that's it. God damn it, game! Alright, we're after that conversation a little bit. First choice, negative delusion. Let's go. Whoa, I had to say something. I had to say something, anything. But dude, come on! You're not Kozupi, are you? I didn't know what to say. Oh my god. The more I tried to think, the more my mind began to go blank. Suddenly, Rimi wiped her nose. Out of sheer reflex, I looked up in surprise. She was crying. I didn't know why, but she was sobbing. I felt even more confused, so I just sat there silently like an idiot. I couldn't think of anything else.
私
Rimi spoke in a very teary voice.
タクに嫌われちゃってるのかな。ごめん。もう話しかけないからごめんね。私邪魔だよね。
Well, if you killed someone, then yeah, you are bothering me. And then she turned around and walked out of the classroom. I want to scream, that's not true. I want to tell her. I just didn't know how to talk to her. That was all. I thought about going after her, but in the end, I couldn't get up from my seat. Even if I did, what should I say to her? What could I say? Do I say, I love you? Do I say, we're friends? Impossible. I don't know anything about Rimi. Sure, she'd saved me the other day, but she was still this mysterious person who just come into my life out of nowhere. I didn't know if I liked her or not. I didn't have any memories of her I could use to decide. Misumi came back from talking to the transfer student. He looked at me with pity in his eyes.
泣かせちまったな。あいつ前に俺に相談してきてたんだぜ。タクのことが好きなんだけど全然気づいてもらえない。
Uh-oh, lost your chance. What the heck? When did that happen? I shook my head violently.
だってわからないんだ。さっぱりわからないんだよ。
わかるかわからないか。そんな理屈の話じゃねえだろ。ま、結局お前は一生ニートやってろってことだ。
Only need 2D Takumi. I never spoke to Rimi again after that, all the way up to graduation. Even when we see each other in class, we avoided each other. And then after graduation, just like Misumi said, I became a NEET forever and never saw Rimi again. Zoop. Maybe I end up with a bad ending like that. That'd be pretty sad. But it was just a simple truth that I didn't know anything about Rimi. I had no choice but to sit there in silence.
タク
Since I wasn't saying a single word, Rimi seemed a little scared when she talked to me. But I couldn't even react. From her perspective, it must have looked like I was ignoring her. In my mind, I knew that this wasn't right, but I still couldn't bring myself to do anything.
大丈夫
This time, I nodded, desperately. I probably looked really weird.
そうだったらいいんだ。
Her tone was gentle. Somehow, unbelievably, I managed to avoid the bad ending. She wants to know if I'm okay, huh? Suddenly, I want to ask her. When she'd seen me in front of 107, how'd the world look to her? Alright, now we're greeted with Senna, and we're going to have a negative delusion. What are you going to do to me, Senna? Are you going to hit me with your feet again? I mean, some people are into that, but once again, not my thing. Suddenly, I stopped. What if she suddenly leapt at me with her D-sword? The idea scared me to death. I'd be so terrified I'd probably do whatever she wanted me to. I took another step inside the car, but then I stopped again. This is just what Senna wanted me to do. I was like a moth to a flame, or a moth caught in a spider's web, or something. This wasn't safe. What was I doing, walking right to my death? I should run. Running would be much safer. I could tell from the chain that she was incredibly strong. She could just twist her hand a little and drop me helplessly to the ground, breaking my arm. And that wasn't all. She had a D-sword too. If that huge, heavy sword hit me, I'd be dead. She'd been waiting for me. She was planning something. I had to get out of here, now! I turned around to run. That is a very, I'm pretty sure no one drew that. That's definitely a photo. But the door to the train was closed. I'd only just come in, just a few seconds had passed, so why? Without a sound, without any sign, had the door been able to close? I just stood there helplessly. I couldn't understand what had happened. When had the door closed? Who'd shut it? That wasn't an automatic door. Even if it was, I would have just heard the noise when it closed. Senna had been sitting on her seat, not moving at all. It hadn't been her. And of course, it wasn't me either. I hadn't even touched it. I wonder if the manager of the car might be somewhere nearby, but I looked outside the window and didn't see anyone who looked like that. No, wait, it didn't matter who shut the door. I looked towards the door at the other end of the car. It was closed too! I was locked in. The only people in the car were Senna and me. What did that mean? 1,000 negative thoughts came to me and made me want to scream.
いつまで
Senna spoke, glaring at me.
そこに突っ立っているつもりだ
There was nowhere to run, my legs were shaking. If I made a lot of noise, the people outside might notice, but before they could intervene, Senna would kick the crap out of me. For now, that was a smart thing to do, would be to not resist. I gave up and walked over towards Senna. And we learned about Gigalomaniac stuff. Wait, if there are so many people out there, how come none of them thought that it was strange that Senna and I were locked inside the train? None of them were paying the train like even the slightest bit of attention. Okay, back here, and just like when it closed, the door had silently opened up again at some point in our conversation. The whole conversation felt like it was a strange dream, like maybe it had never happened at all. Oh, Yua's attacking us! But this time, what if we have a good delusion? What if she's actually not attacking us but wants something else? If I disobeyed, she'd kill me. At least, that's how it felt to me. I just nodded instead of trying to resist. Whoa.
どうしても伝えたかった。
I just had to tell you.
好き、
Oh,
好きなの。分かって、大好き。分かってよ。
Yandere Yua once
私の
again.
ものになって、お願い。
I always thought that a confession of love would be more romantic, more passionate, more joyful. But this wasn't anything like that. It was terrifying. What was supposed to be a confession of love felt more like being on the receiving end of a death sentence. I had no choice but to say no in a way that couldn't possibly be misinterpreted. She was just a stalker. Otherwise, things would get totally out of control. I knocked away her hand violently.
お断りだ。警察に突き出すぞ。
Yua's expression froze like she was shocked. Her head drooped low and she began to look timid and weak.
そんなに嫌われてたなんて。ごめんなさい。もう、付きまといません。
Alright, bye-bye.
さようなら、西条くん。
She let go and turned away from me, shoulders slumped, and walked out of the booth on unsteady feet. I told her off! I told her off! Seeing her cry actually made me feel great. The idea of being free from that stalker made me so happy. I cheered a little right in the booth. Well, alright. I came back to my senses. Yua was right there, hand over my mouth.
私、西条くんのこと騙してたわけだし。
She was whispering. I hadn't heard what she'd whispered at all. I've been off in my own little world, if only that delusion had been real. But of course, it wasn't, and Yua kept talking.
でも、お願いです。一つだけ言わせてください。これ以上、あなたが傷つくのも、あなたが不幸になるのも、あなたのせいで不幸になる人が出るのも見たくないんです。
What was she talking about? She was making it sound like she knew everything about me. She hadn't even spent a full day with me. What could she possibly understand? Was this another one of her crazy delusions? Also terrified, I started to flail my limbs about, but Yua wouldn't let go. She might kill me at this rate. Had Chogen given up on trying to trap me and sent Yua as an assassin instead? I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die!
ごめんなさい。お願いだから、静かに話はすぐ終わりますから。
Her voice was shaking, but her hands were so strong and holding me so tightly that I couldn't even move. I couldn't believe her tiny hands could have so much power.
西条くん、
She got closer and I desperately looked away.
もう
Alright. Multiple personality. Alright, go. Maybe I wasn't sleepwalking. Maybe the person controlling me. A me who wasn't me. Another personality who wasn't me. Yep, alright. See ya at the next choice. We are now in the park, which was not very long after that, but we do nothing. We are now in the underground place with Ayase, and as once again we do nothing, while Ayase's like, oh man, that feels good. Huh? New gen. Another crazy chick! These random ass cut-ins are gotta find it. Find it and you'll be saved. And if I was going to save myself from them... Okay. The sword was the one that Fez was waving around during her concert. This wasn't a single straight edge on the whole thing. Beautiful. Okay, we are in chapter 5, Delusions. We're in school. We saw Rimi before. Don't really remember what's happening, but we're skipping this. Music store. With Rimi, we are going to have a bad delusion. I'll snap it in half for you.
Hi?
Wait, what are you talking about? Oh, CD, okay. Snap it in half? Where did that come from? I thought Rimi wasn't that kind of girl that would do something so DQN like, no! Rimi ignored my confusion and continued talking.
その CD を持ってる人は呪われちゃうの。
Cursed.
シャク、知らなかったでしょ。
It's the Black
私の調べた
Sabbath.
情報によるとね、ニュージェネの被害者はみんなその CD を買った人なの。フェスの予言は CD を買った人にだけ。
She's been killing all of us all along.
フェスの呪いなの。
That's impossible.
ニュージェネ事件は全部フェスの仕業。急がないと。次に死ぬのはタクだよ。
Oh, it's the power of the CD.
おーい。
Oi! Suddenly, I came back to my senses. Rimi waved her hand in front of my face, looking confused.
どうしたの？急に意識がどこかに飛んじゃってたみたいだけど。
Okay, I'm gonna break my CD before I give it to you. It's cursed!
いや、
You told me yourself. It's like, what are you talking about? Oh, it's just a delusion. That scared me.
その調子だと話聞いてなかったでしょ。
About the cursed CD, right?
じゃあもう一回言うけど、私のお気に入り CD を貸すっていうので手を打ってくれないかな。
は？
ねえねえ、いいでしょ？お願いします。
What CD? Is it a Seraton Bloodtooth CD? Well, this is how it actually happened in reality, right? I nodded and she gave a little cheer of joy. It was so funny that I couldn't help but laugh despite the danger I was in. Random line. Sometimes I was surprised at how overly friendly Rimi seemed. Okay. Delusion in our room after doing some research. And we skipped that. A random line again. If they were 2D characters, they'd be really moe, but not in 3D. And we have a delusion here now. Rimi's in her room. We're gonna have a positive delusion after she said, that makes me feel relieved. Huh. Oh god, is this gonna be fan service? This is gonna be 100% fan service because we're doing a positive delusion. Oh god. Keep in your pants, please. I glance over at Rimi, unsure of what to say. Freaking knew it. Huh? Hey, wait, what? Why? My mind had gone totally blank. I was having trouble keeping up with this incredible turn of events. So, I just want to say, actually, where's my game? I have the steel box cover dual pack for ChäoS Head and ChäoS Child. And one thing that it actually comes with is like a code for a costume for Rimi where she's just in lingerie. I decided not to use the code, but like, because I feel like it would take out of the Let's Play or go playthrough, but I don't know, maybe it's just, you know, normal for Takumi because he's always imagining things like that. I couldn't even move a finger. I was too shocked to even speak.
どうかした？
She's taking off the jacket of her uniform, I realized. That wasn't all. She's taking off her skirt too. And the way she was sitting, it looks like she wasn't wearing any panties. That meant Rimi was sitting next to me, wearing nothing but a shirt and a bra. The first thing I thought was the famous H game about a private tutor. It was called Miss Emily-chan Can't Strip, and what I was experiencing is... I can't fucking do this. I can't. And what I was experiencing now was right out of its third chapter. An H-game had come to life and right here in my room. Was this a delusion, a hallucination, or was it real? Zoom in. The booba. Whether it was real or delusion, Rimi was definitely sitting in front of me, almost naked. I found myself staring at her chest. With her unbuttoned shirt, I could get some occasional glimpses of it. Her light pink bra. Your chest is bigger than I thought it was, Miss Sakihata. Wait, no. If you stare, she'll think you're a pervert. Don't look at her. I let my gaze fall to the ground. No, just look at her in the face. Yes, her face is up there. God damn it. Wait, now I'm looking at her legs. She's not wearing a skirt. I can see your panties, Miss Sakihata. They're very simple design, but it's very cute. Oh, crap, my little man seems starting to boot up. I could smell a sweet scent coming from Rimi's body, and her skin felt very real in a way that figures in 2D never did. So that was the power of 3D. It was too sexy to handle, to be honest. All my deeply held values were in danger of being wiped out. I told myself I wasn't into 3D girls, that I only loved 2D girls. But Rimi's body had destructive power about it that threatened to eradicate those beliefs. I could hear her breathing like she was a little excited. The fine strands of her girly hair gently waved as she breathed. Her chest moved up and down with each breath. The sexy way she was rubbing her thighs together. Her dewy eyes, her pink tongue, peeking out from her half-opened lips. It hurt to breathe. My mind was blanking. What was this? I felt like that kind of strange, itchy feeling you get when a sex scene starts in an H game. My mind began to race. She called out to me in a sweet voice. I couldn't take my eyes off her body. I'd never seen a girl my age's body this close. Was Rimi coming on to me? Did she like me? To be honest, I didn't want to be tempted in such a lewd way. Ideally, I wanted to start off with a platonic friendship, and then we slowly fall in love with each other until she worked up the courage to say that she liked me beneath the legendary tree on graduation day. I'd say okay, and then she'd start crying tears of joy, and then we kiss. At least that's what I used to think. But after experiencing the scene unfolding in front of me, platonic friendship could go screw itself. You're not the only one. I stood up, unable to bear the tension between us. Drinks. Maybe in the fridge? I had a thing of soda, but I already drank out of it. Giving it to her would be weird. I could sense Rimi standing up behind me. You'll be right back. I turned around in panic just in time to see Rimi, still in her underwear, heading out the door. She was going to the store with her panties showing? That's crazy! Was Rimi an exhibitionist? Oh, she heard that word. What? I leapt up and literally fell back in shock. Rimi was right there. She hadn't left at all. She was wearing all of her clothes, too. She was looking down at me with wide eyes.
びっくりした。急に大声出さないでよ。さっきから変だよ。一人でブツブツ言い出したかと思ったら、
You're weird.
急に大声上げるし。
You're weird.
どうかしたの?
What was Rimi doing here? I'd seen her leave. Was the sexy Rimi I'd just seen a delusion? The sexy Rimi had felt so real. I hadn't touched her, but I could tell from looking at her just how soft her skin was. Wait, what was I saying? There's something wrong with me today.
ねえ、タク。
My whole body froze when she spoke. Had I disgusted her? What if she didn't want anything to do with me anymore? Without her around, I couldn't even leave the house by myself.
私、喉乾いてきちゃった。
Huh?
何か飲み物ある?
She asked the exact same thing as before. But while she sounded so sexy a moment ago, this time she sounded completely normal. I shook my head slightly. Rimi put a finger to her temple and pursed her lips for a moment in thought.
ないなら買ってこようかな。コンビニって深センの駅前にあったよね。ちょっと行ってくる。
Make sure to wear her clothes. She smiled and left the room without waiting for my answer. all I could do was stare at her as she went. She was going to the store in her uniform. It was, completely normal. The sexy Rimi had just been a hallucination after all. Of course it was. I felt a little relieved, but a little disappointed. But the sexy Rimi, the second Ayase. What was it that made those illusions feel so real? Was I the one who done it, even? Did I have the power or not? If so, how could I use it? How could I get a D sword? There's so many problems facing me that I didn't even know where to start. What was up with that sexy Rimi though? Random line. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna go and input the code because I'm curious if it's the same outfit. I'll be back. Okay, I am back in the game. If I click extras, will anything new pop up? Oh, so there's... Actually, I haven't seen this in a while. So these are the CGs that we've seen so far in the game. Sound library, we can listen to all the different music that we've heard. I guess some of them... Oh, some of them aren't available. So far the song I like the most was this one, which I use to, like, you know, put into the beginning of the episodes. It's just a nice vibe. Here we have the cutscenes. Oh, we do have the costume here. I'm gonna try it for like one time. I don't really know what the costume is, but I am kind of curious. Well, what was up with that sexy Rimi? She was way too real just to be a hallucination. It was incredibly sexy, even just thinking back on it. I hadn't really stared that much, but I even had seen the wrinkles in her panties. As a self-proclaimed panty meister, of figures only, I could state that they were incredibly realistic. A mere delusion couldn't recreate that level of detail. Wait, that wasn't what mattered here. The power to project delusions into reality. Did it really exist? Was Shogun after me because I had it? If I did have that power, memories from when I was young came back to me. The day I was the only one who didn't get in an accident. The bus had crashed and all my classmates had gotten hurt. My teacher, Mr. Saito, had died. I'd seen the images in my head so clearly. I could see every detail. Was that just really me seeing the future? If, maybe, that wasn't me seeing the future, but just my delusion. And what if I made that delusion a reality? My whole body felt like it was about to start shaking. I wrapped my arms around myself to keep my body still. That you killed a whole bunch of people? Okay, that answers my question. Well, I guess that is exactly what it is. That's gonna be really distracting. I was curious, and I don't really like it. So, we'll put your clothes back on. That's such a stupid ad to the game. But I guess there are some people who are just, you know, play this game for those reasons. So, yeah. Okay, this is the last illusion for Chapter 5. And this is when we meet Kozupi, and that's going to remain unchanged. Alright, so, I'm gonna skip until Chapter 6 starts, so I have like an appropriate save file. But I think that's where I'm gonna stop for today. I made some mistakes. I accidentally ran to Senna's feet. And, well, we're on our way to doing our another ending. I mean, past Chapter 5, that's, I mean, technically half the story, but I'm assuming the new content will also take a decent chunk of the time. But you can probably guess whose ending this is. That's right. This is Rimi's ending. The one I'm trying to attempt is Rimi's route. And, we'll try to, you know, actually I'll just continue until the next choice. But yeah, Rimi's route will be done, hopefully, with next episode. I want to make sure it's at most 3 episodes per route. I don't want to go too long because I've already spent a lot of time in this game. And this game is just really long. So yeah, we'll save here and do the, continue with the route next time. Until then, I will be seeing you. See ya!